download a copy of the presentation there. We're expecting over 100 people on today's call, so we've muted everyone to keep the background noise at a minimum. A Q&A session will be held at the end of today's presentation. Please use the chat box on the left to submit your questions, and any unanswered questions will be posted and responded to on BRYCS blog. We encourage you to continue the conversation there. Without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce our speakers for today. We have Tiara Beach Barnwell, a licensed social worker with a focus on child welfare in the international migration and cross-border context. She's passionate about developing and supporting culturally sensitive and trauma-informed programming for vulnerable children and youth, especially those who are unaccompanied victims of trafficking and forced migration. Katelyn McLaren manages the BRYCS website, clearinghouse and publications, and supports the e-learning courses for a new global maritime trafficking program. She was a member of the steering committee for the U.S. Regional Refugee Youth Consultation and was responsible for coordination, planning, and helped to facilitate the event. She graduated from James Madison University with a bachelor's degree in international affairs in German. Our two youth today are Depeche and Rosaline. Depeche was born in Nepal in 1997. He and his family came to the U.S. and were resettled in Atlanta and then moved to Pittsburgh shortly thereafter. Depeche is actively involved in his community as a youth leader, volunteer, and advocate for the Nepali Bhutanese community in Pittsburgh. He currently attends Penn State University, where he participates in many on-campus activities while maintaining an excellent GPA. Rosaline was born in the Democratic Republic of Congo and was resettled to the U.S. through the Unaccompanied Refugee Minors Program. She is currently in Denver, where she lives with her foster family and attends school. Rosaline is passionate about making a positive impact on the refugee community and helping others. Thank you all for taking the time today to share your expertise with us.
Hi everyone, this is Katelyn McLaren. Before we get started in talking about the integration barriers the youth identified, I wanted to give you a little bit of background about the U.S. Refugee Youth Consultation and how I came to be. So this U.S. consultation is part of the global refugee youth consultations that were occurring all over the world this past year. Every year, UNHCR holds an annual NGO consultation, and this year's overarching theme is youth and adolescence. To further this theme, UNHCR asked resettlement countries from around the world to hold many refugee youth consultations to identify issues and perspectives that are unique from those youth. Two youth from each consultation will go to Geneva and present their region's recommendations. UNHCR requested that the Vulnerable Minors Working Group of Refugee Council USA host the U.S. consultation. USCCB and BRYCS are part of this Vulnerable Minors Working Group, along with many other agencies, including HIAS, LIRS, and USCRI. From the Vulnerable Minors Working Group, members volunteered to form a steering committee, including myself and Tiara, and were put in charge of the planning and organization of the consultation. Next slide. So this is an infographic that BRYCS recently made that represents all of the youth that participated in our consultation. This is also available for download on BRYCS' website if you're interested. So the steering committee reviewed more than 50 fabulous nominations and had to select only 25 youth. The youth were from 14 countries, included 15 boys and 10 girls. Their ages ranged from 16 to 24. They were from many different religious backgrounds and had different resettlement experiences, as you can see from the bottom of the slide.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Tiara. And because we gave priority to making the consultations youth-driven, we wanted to ensure that the topics that were going to be discussed at the consultation in D.C. Were determined by refugee youth and reflected the issues and needs that refugee youth face in the United States and that were identified by the youth themselves. So to that end, prior to the consultation in D.C., each of the 25 youth who participated were asked to conduct a diamond raking exercise with peers in their local area. And this exercise involved them gathering refugee and other migrating youth in their local area to elicit feedback on their own experiences before, during, and after migration. And the goal was for them to agree as a group on a list of 9 of the most important issues and concerns facing this population of youth. And so as you can see in the diagram here, they created a diamond and listed at the top the issues with the highest priority for youth, and then scattered them down to the bottom with the lowest priority. And so the youth who came to participate in the consultation were then able to represent not only their own opinions, but also the perspectives of the group of youth that they had gathered to conduct this exercise. And so the top 4 issues that were identified after reviewing all of the diamond ranking activities from across the country that were submitted as part of this pre-consultation activity revealed that the top issues were surrounding education, cultural adjustment, language barrier, and discrimination and bullying. Once the youth arrived in DC, the bulk of the time at the consultation consisted of discussing these 4 themes. As I mentioned, they were education, cultural adjustment, language barrier, and discrimination and bullying. And we used a problem and solution tree method to discuss those. So in groups of 5, the youth brainstormed the causes of each issue. And those were documented at the root of the tree. You can see the pictures here. The impact that each issue has on youth, which were documented on the branches of the tree. And finally, the solutions for improving practices and policies that impact youth who are migrating. And those were documented in the clouds above the tree. And then each of the small groups reported back to the larger group, and each area was summarized and recorded. And so the information that will be presented by Depeche and Rosaline today are based on this synthesis of the discussions that were held at those consultations. And so without further ado, I will introduce Rosaline. Rosaline, are you on the line?
Hello, I am. I forgot to unmuted myself. I'm sorry.
Great.
All right, this is Rosaline speaking, and I had the honor to be one of the participants in the consultation that we had in Washington, D.C. And when we were there, as Katelyn said, we talked about many different issues and stuff. One of those was the cultural adjustments. Many of the youth agreed that cultural adjustment was one of the big problems that we had. So I'm just going to read the thesis in this right there. So adjusting to a new culture can be a difficult challenge for refugees to accept. If they do accept this new culture and begin to reestablish and find an identity, it becomes challenging to keep everyone in both cultures happy. A lack of cultural adjustment limits communication, acceptance, and inclusion. So we talked about different things and how some of the causes that comes with the cultural adjustment is just the fact that everything is so different here in America, and from clothes, food, and even the environment. Everything looks different, everything's still different, and so adjusting to that can be very difficult for people. And also the confusion with the idealistic view of America. Like whenever we are in Africa or whatever in our home countries, we talk about, or we have programs that teaches us how to adjust and what America is like, and they don't tell you a lot of their realistic views in how America is really like. They only tell you that you basically like the idea that they put in your head is like if you get there you will be fine, and it doesn't work like that. There's a lot of things that we didn't know that we came here and had to face or had to go through and things like that, like school or other issues that people or youth we face. There are the issues that they didn't tell you back then, and then they didn't give you perfect view of what it's like, you know. And so we talked about family expectations and how we get here, and parents are expected to do certain things, and like they don't teach you what it's like to be a father or a mother in America, because I know ways of disciplining kids is very different. In some countries, you know, hitting a child is not a big deal, just one way of you know, telling you or educating you. But like here, it's very different and means a lot of different things to this culture and stuff. And so it's very important that they give the realistic view in telling you that going to America is not in heaven. America is not heaven. You're gonna have to work a lot. You're gonna have to do a lot of things that, you know, they didn't tell you about, like working and I don't know, taking loans and having to face really discrimination and things like that. And those are the things that they don't tell you about. And so you ended up feeling isolated and pressured and stressed. Discriminated against is one of the things that just comes with these causes and stuff, because you're so different and people want to pick on you. I feel like that's human nature. But like just teaching kids how to face that and how to react to certain things. If someone chooses not to be nice, you know how to protect yourself. And so another impact will be the family conflict and tension. And so when you're trying to adjust to one culture and then you tend to lose the identity of yours, and then you are either focused too much on the American culture and then you forget where you come from, or you don't involve too much, and therefore you don't learn a lot about the American culture and you still hold on to that. So I guess just finding the balance in that can be very helpful. Next slide, please. Thank you. Some of the solutions that we came with as a group was just to give a more in-depth and of culture orientation. So like whenever we are doing the culture orientation in Africa or even here, just to tell kids in a more realistic view of America and to tell them all the things that they're going to have to face. I'm sure if they tell the truth and just, I mean, people will still want to come to America just because it has better outcomes for youth in particular. Youth will still want to come and they still want a household. And just to understand that coming here is not going to be a piece of cake. It's going to be hard. You're going to have to go through things. You're going to have to do a lot of things that you might not want to, but it's going to end up being, you know, good thing at the end. And also, try to help family generational challenges that arises from adjusting and assimilating to a new culture. I know that's one of the things that I faced since I was in foster care, and like my family, my parents here didn't know absolutely nothing about me. I got here, they had different expectations and like views of what I would look like and the type of things that I would do and the type of things that I would be like. They had no idea what they were welcoming into their home. And so I guess it's nice and it's important to teach families here or even families in original countries what it's like to welcome a different person and to know their culture. I guess learn about each other's culture. It's not just about me learning your culture, because it's important to me that you know my culture and you know that, you know, things that I like, kind of food that I like and stuff like that. It's important to me that I know that you are interested in my culture just as much as I'm interested in yours. And to encourage refugees to get involved in the communities. A lot of times when kids come here, they find a little group of like 2 or 3 people that know what they know, and to just and like stay in that little zone, and it becomes hard for them to break out of that shell and go out and make friends and be involved in the community and get to know other things other than your own culture. And to promote biculturalism is also important, or for one peer peer culture exchange, like an American Friend program. I know, like here at UNC, where I go in Greeley, Colorado, there is a lot of kids that I've met that are interested in getting to know the life of a refugee and stuff, with the whole refugee issues that are being, coming out from Syria and all this new news that comes up. People are interested, and I know some Americans that will be interested in getting to live and volunteer and getting to know, and I see more and more Americans getting into the International Affairs program just to learn about refugees and learning about different countries. So I think it's possible to offer that to youth and expose them to the different cultures so they can find the, comfortness in the culture and stuff. And encourage participant in after-school activities. This was very important when I got here because I got here on a Tuesday, and then I started school on a Thursday. So I knew absolutely nothing about this culture. I didn't know the language. I could barely communicate with my family, let alone school and things like that. But I was able to be in a soccer team, and so I didn't know anything about English, but being able to be with these girls and just playing soccer, a lot of times I even forgot that I didn't know English or I didn't speak English, so I'll be screaming and yelling, ball, ball, here, it's false English, but at least I'm talking and just getting that out of my system and talking and participating, and that's really important. I think it's healthy for youth to be able to participate and be out there and taking chances and stuff. The next slide, please. And the other things that we talk about was the language barrier. And I'm also going to read the phrase up there. And so language barrier creates misunderstandings for refugees. They also make refugees feel isolated and are a serious challenge faced by many refugees. I think every child, every youth can relate to this. We all come here and we absolutely have no idea how to speak English. You don't even know, the English you thought you knew, you get here and it's absolutely nothing like you thought you knew. Some of the causes that we came up with was just the limited and lack of English education prior to resettlement. And I know for me, I was never in a camp, so I don't know, but a lot of kids that I talked about that were in the camp, they said they have so much time in their hands in the camp and stuff. So learning English during that time will be useful and when they get here, at least to know the basic thing of how to write, and if you can't communicate, if you can't express yourself well, you can at least write it down and know that people will understand you. Also, classes in the U.S. have so many students, refugees. Refugees don't receive enough individual support. I had to go from a school that was 5 minutes away from me to a school that was 25 minutes because they had more ESL classes. However, you find so many kids will go and then all they do is ESL classes and they don't have the experience with they don't get any practice, and few opportunity to practice in a safe and judge-free environment. That's also one of the causes. And so a lot of times when kids can't communicate, we find ourselves isolated and helpless, antisocial behavior, and then depression eventually. And then friendship, making friends is very hard when you can't even say hi or knowing what they're telling you. It makes it very, very hard to make friends. And then school gets all difficult. You feel I feel like a lot of times I used to feel like I was working 10 times as hard just to get an A or just to get a B. I have to do extra work where other kids will just, and I understand that's just something that comes with learning a new challenge, a new English and a new language. But I think it could be better for many kids. And so bullying and stereotype is also one of the impacts. I remember a lot of times when I would go to school and I tell people, but they'll hear my accent, they'll be like, so where are you from? I'll be like, I'm from Congo, and they immediately think I used to dance and play with monkeys and stuff. And I'll be like, no, I've never even seen an elephant. The first elephant I saw was
Hi, everyone. We're troubleshooting right now. We think Rosaline may have lost her cell signal. Please give us 1 minute.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Rosaline. Welcome back.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I thought I was still on.
Okay.
Okay.
About bullying and stereotyping with
Oh,
language barrier?
yes. So as I was saying, bullying and stereotype is one of the things many Americans just assume about a refugee youth. They will tell them you're from a certain country and they start picturing you, playing with monkeys or something like that. I used to find that I was to be offended by that, but then I understood. They didn't know. And not knowing English, being able to explain to them where I'm from and what it's like where I'm from made it even harder. And the role reversal in homes, and it's hard because a lot of times you find yourself being your own translator. I didn't have this problem because, again, I was in foster care and my parents only spoke English. But whenever I would go home, trying to communicate with them and trying to learn, it was harder at first because I know a lot of time people think being in foster care or being in a different culture. So in American foster care is a disadvantage. But for me, it wasn't. This is what allowed me to learn English and really fast and accurately. But a lot of times, other kids don't have this. They have to go home and to their parents and having to translate everything that they've learned in class or even try to be their own parents' translator with the little English that they know. So we just spend a lot of time trying to play different roles in your home or even with school and situations like that, and it's difficult. Next slide, please. Some of the solutions that we came up with was organizing a special event networking to promote integration. This is something that I'm personally very passionate about. I started working with the Lutheran Family Services soon after we came from the consultation, because this consultation really opened my eyes and really got me to really think about what I want to do and what I'm really passionate about. And I thought about how difficult it was for me to be here and being and evaluating and getting to where I am. It was very hard, and I thought about things I could have done, things that someone could have done to change this experience for me. So I started getting all the kids at the Lutheran Family Services together, and then we would talk about this kind of stuff and things. They were, I was very amazed and surprised on how much of the stuff that we talked about that they knew. And these kids they're in high school, middle school. I'd like to think of myself as a mentor to them, because now I'm going to be a junior in college, and I feel like a lot of the things that I went through are the same things that they're going through, and so I'm hoping to start organizing. I think we're gonna have one coming up this next month, but like organizing events and just have them come over and play and be free and speak as bad of English or as good of English as they know, and just being free and enjoy themselves, and knowing that nobody will be judging them, because we all have an accent, we all are from a different place, and this is all a strange place to us. But like at that place, I'm hoping they will be able to look at me and see, you know, even though this is hard, like she's making it, she's gonna graduate school and going through the same exact thing. I'm hoping to like empower them to stay focused and continue to follow their dreams, because I've always wanted to work with the UN and help as many people as the UN has helped me, because I can't tell you how much this program, the UN HCR, helped me a lot. Coming here saved my life. I was diagnosed with cancer 6 months after I got here, and so if I would have waited even a little longer, I don't think I could have made it. So that encourages me and helped me to think of what it's like to be in a situation like that, and having to help and having the help and support that I had, that changed my life. And I always look back and I will never forget what the UNHCR has done for me. And so I will always be looking and trying to find ways to help other people. I hope nobody will, be in the same shoes that I was in, but I hope to make it easier for them. And so, sorry. And the other solution, it will be to encourage youth to join soccer teams and activities that would allow youth to practice their English and skills in a pressure-free setting. So like I said before, just being able to participate in something or being able to be in a group that's not necessarily from where you're from, plus that you can just go and enjoy yourself and have fun and forget all the differences that there is between or all the loss and barrier. I hope that the not knowing English, the language, will not be a barrier for many of the youth. And I'm working hard to try and change that in my own community per se. So organizing a mentoring and language program for refugee youth also will be another one that can be done and help kids to be better off when speaking English. And the next one, please. And then the solutions continues. So institute a mentoring program for refugees where they partner with an American students to practice English. And I know when we were in the orientation, one of the kids was talking about how the English that they learned in the refugee camp is not the same English. I guess the accents and stuff is very different from the accent here. But like, it's important to have people who speak the same English to where you're gonna go and speak the same English, or being able to write something and being able to communicate in more way than just verbally. I know some of the things that helped me was the fact that I would go home and speak English with my parents and things like that. But also I had to do the Rosetta Stone. I had so many CDs of that, and my dad used to make me sit there and I would listen and do stuff and just watch the Rosetta Stone. I didn't like it at the time, but it helped. It helped a lot. And also I had a little translator thingy-majiggy that I would use whenever I don't know how to pronounce a word, because I spoke French, or I speak French. So I would type in the word, and then it will come up, and then I will show it. And he'd be like, oh, okay, let's do it, you know. And it was just another way to make this easier for me. But also using this summer as a time to learn and practice could also be very helpful, and make ESL classes more activity-based, and offer them more than once a day. I know, like, it feels like nowadays classes is all about grades, and like, will I be able to pass the class? Will I be able not to pass the class? And things like that. A lot of times we forget that learning is more than just the grades. It's getting to know the material and having them in your head so you can use them in the future. That's the whole point of learning. But like, activities is one way to do that, and to making sure that kids are learning the things that are learning. Because I know a lot of times the words that I remember today is the words that I did, or I learned them in some ways than just looking them up in the dictionary. And so all those are ways that could help kids learn English better and be better off in school and in the environment, and also as humans and better citizens, I suppose. The next one, please. So I will pass it over to Depeche, and he's going to talk about education and bullying and discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. With our diamond activity, we came up with a lot of issues. Education, discrimination, and bullying were one of the top four issues. Education, especially, is essential for success of refugee youth, and many refugees struggle in the American education system upon arrival. When they arrive here in this new country, they feel like they are starting their education over again. Because of the lack of education of teachers on the unique needs of the refugees in school, they feel as if it's not a good transition. It's very hard for them to come into school and learn. Like Rose said, she struggled because she didn't have the language to express herself and understand the topics in general. Sometimes students are placed in grade levels that they don't correspond to or correspond to their learning level. Sometimes students have schools back home and are more educated than when they come up here. Because of the language barrier, they don't understand the same topics. So having that as an issue leads to poor performance, less job opportunities, and missing out on other opportunities as well. They feel discouraged, frustrated, depressed, hopeless, and they lose their interest in studies overall. And this lack of interest can sometimes lead to dropping out, and becoming involved in gangs, drugs, and other bad behaviors. Next slide, please. And some of the solutions that we came up with as a group was having a support system for families, offering a support system for families and students alike, educating parents on arrival about American school systems and importance of parent-teacher conferences, for example, as well as educating parents on the financial resources that are available, such as scholarships for private high school and colleges. Next slide, please. And for schools, working to increase communications with schools, new schools can be made aware of students' unique needs. Sometimes students need more help than they show, and a lot of schools aren't focused on refugee kids. Even though they receive a lot of refugee kids in schools, they're not focused in helping them as much. They have ESL classes, but it's not for the need and improvement of the students. It's there. Sometimes it feels as if you're part of the class, you're learning, you're trying your best, but sometimes it's not something that you would expect from or something that's making the transition easier, because you're going to school, you're facing all the challenges around. And having translated school materials, as I've said before, students sometimes feel discouraged because they don't understand the topic, not because they don't understand the topic, because they can't express what they understand. And having schools translate materials for them would be a solution for them, for that problem. Educating teachers on the needs of refugees. Sometimes students and teachers around in school don't understand the needs and the background of refugees in school, and they will gloss over the fact that they don't understand as much English or just the topic in general, and they're struggling just to adjust in classes because they've never experienced such class before, that it would be better for schools to educate teachers especially and students as well on the issues of refugees and their needs. And offering refugee-specific guidance, counseling, and summer orientation sessions to help them with transition to schools and to the United States. Because from a personal experience, I attended middle school. In my first class here in the United States was middle school. I started as sixth grader, and my school provided me with a guidance counselor, a personal guidance counselor, to help me with whatever problems I had. That wasn't just involved with classes, but I could just go up to him or her and then just talk about what issues I had, how I was struggling, something that I didn't understand, and in general what the school was like. And it was very helpful because I always had someone there to help me, and even though other teachers didn't understand, I could always go up to the guidance counselor and she would go and help and express some of the things that I had. It would be easier for me to express things to her versus my teachers who were teaching a class for whole general students. And increasing after-school programming and tutoring as well for parents as well as students would be a very good initiative that schools as well as organizations here in the United States would do to help the refugees have a smoother transition. Next slide, please. Another key issue that we came up with was discrimination, or mentioned was discrimination and bullying. Refugee youth deal with discrimination and bullying almost every day in all aspects of their life. This is the biggest and most negative issue for refugees facing here in the United States. Some of the causes is not just the American Citizen Society, it's because of the lack of knowledge of refugees here. Media as representations of the refugees, because refugees have different background, different stories, different culture, different tradition, they look different, they are judged differently. And this preconceived knowledge outbrusted by media, shown by media and other sources, makes it very difficult for refugees to come up here and make a life here. This impacts refugees in a very harmful way. Sometimes they lose their past and culture by trying to fit into American society to stop this bullying from happening. Refugees are prone to have self-harming behaviors. They feel depressed, suicidal. They feel isolated, fearful, frustrated, lonely, hopeless, insecure, powerless, and reduces their self-confidence overall to have a life here and make the best of the opportunities here in the United States. Next slide, please. Discrimination and bullying is a key problem for refugees here, refugee youth here. Resettlement agencies could have a program for parents in educating them about bullying, that it exists and is a key. It's a problem here in the United States that people are not all welcoming, that showing and educating parents and students before they arrive and after they arrive, before they head out to the world here in the United States saying that you should expect discrimination and bullying, and you should be more, that this would create a shield for them, that they're not expecting this out of the blue, that they know that there's going to be discrimination and bullying. It would be a better transition for them here in the United States. And encouraging civic engagement among refugees and other programs in the community can help get the refugees involved, as well as share the stories of their struggle and what they have been through and why they're here. Could be a solution. Next slide, please. For schools, creating bullying prevention programs, educating teachers and counselors about bullying directed at refugees, creating mentorship programs that partner Americans and refugee kids, as well as having after-school programs that teaches all students and teachers to stand up for themselves and others, would allow the students to have better self-confidence and self-respect and self-love. And this program that you can have after school would be really beneficial to everyone, not just the refugees, but American kids here as well, because they would learn about new culture, new faces surrounding in the school, and it would help them better understand the world that's outside of the school and not just be prone to what they know through media or something that they heard. Next slide, please. So overall, education, discrimination is a key issue, and some of the solutions that we've presented already would be a really good help for the students here, for them to have a better transition here in the United States.
Hi, everyone. We're troubleshooting here. Our slides have disappeared. Give us one quick second. Sorry. Okay, everybody should now be able to see the presentation again.
Hi, everyone. So we're going to take your questions now for myself, Tiara, or if you have anything specific that you'd like to ask Depeche and Rosaline, please type it in the chat box now, and we'll get started. Okay, so our first question is, Depeche and Rosaline, do you have any specific recommendations for what kinds of events to organize within the community to promote integration? And either one of you, feel free to take a swing at that one.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So one of the things that I thought I would do that would be helpful, especially now that we're entering summer and stuff, I came up with like a test of cultural events kind of thing. I would say test of Africa, but it's really not all about Africa. It's all about, different cultures and stuff. And so I talked to my Emily, my cast manager, and I talked to her about getting all the kids together to some events and do something like just have a little cookout outside and have all the kids bring in different culture or different food from different places. It doesn't even have to be just whatever they feel comfortable bringing, and they could all bring all the foods. We'll play games that we'll learn about each other's games from different cultures and stuff. Because I know I have a lot of games that I used to play when I was a kid that I don't get to play anymore. So I thought maybe teaching them those kind of games and having them teach each other other kind of games and just getting to know each other, getting to play and have fun. And then at the end, like having a little section of teaching them and encouraging, because I don't want the whole event to be about fun and stuff, but also just remembering that being a refugee here in the U.S. is not necessarily, it's something you should be ashamed of. It's that you can still make it. We can still be whoever you want to be, and succeed like that. And so just doing that activity and getting everybody to talk, getting everybody to get out of their shells and try different food, try different cultures, and play different games. And so something like that I think will be helpful.
Thanks, Rosaline. That was a great question. So now great answer. We have one for Depeche. What can we do to help with the parent-child role reversal that occurs once refugee families are resettled here to the U.S.?
Recording. Okay, so it's educating the kids, not just telling the parents. One of the approaches that you can take to help the parents-child role reversal is it's a problem here in the United States. I see that every youth is growing and being more educated than the parents here, and parents feel as if they are not doing as much in the families. But having to educate parents in the sense that some of the things that they can't do here would be like just educating the parents and kids together, saying that you can always help one another, and this is not about who is, in a sense, like leading the family, but it's working together to build a new family here in the United States. I guess that would be the approach to help parent-child reversal here.
Perfect. Thanks so much. And
yep.
Now I have one for both you, Depeche and Rosaline. What do you wish you knew before you came to the United States? Depeche, you can go first, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah. I wish I knew that, like I said, understanding that there was discrimination, that it was not all perfect as you would hope, that you need to work hard. Sharing your story, having a voice here is very important. Like something that, like the line of telling you that it's very hard to adjust here and it's not as open as it is would be a good shield and something that I would love to have, wish I had before I came here in the United States.
Rosaline, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Again, I forgot to unmute myself. But I was going to say it was just about the same thing that Depeche talked about, is just knowing that America is not heaven, that you get here and you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to do things and work a lot and go to school a lot and stay up and do 3-4 things all at once, because I came in and I didn't know I had to work. I just thought I was going to sit here, wake up, drink tea, and then go back to bed, go shopping, and it wasn't like that. It's nothing like that. It's a hustle here. And I guess knowing that ahead would have prepared me better and have a different way of approaching coming to America as opposed to that I'm going to heaven approach.
Thank you, Rosaline. We have another question here. What are some of the best types of interventions to do with families with small children to help reduce stress in the homes and communities? So we'd like to direct your attention I'll throw it in the chat pod here. BRYCS has a number of resources on early childhood, but we would recommend first looking at our Raising Young Children in a New Country, Supporting Early Learning and Healthy Development. It's an illustrated handbook that's based off of our original parenting handbook, and it's been translated into Arabic and Spanish with more translations on the way. And it also has supplemental tip sheets and ways you can use that handbook with your clients. Then we have another question for the youth here. I know you spoke a little bit about a counselor that helped you, Depeche, in school, but is there one specific thing that any of your teachers did that was particularly helpful in your adjustment into the U.S. school system, or is there one thing that you wish your teachers would have done? Depeche, did you want to speak about that?
My teacher in my high school, she coordinated events for gifted coordinator. She coordinated events for schools to do outside of school, like field trips and other things. And her approach to go out and seek ESL students and refugee kids was the best thing that happened to me, in a sense that she went up and asked for refugee youth to get involved in this event, so that they're integrated with American kids. Going out to this event, talking to one another, helped me a lot and helped me make friends here in the United States and understand much more. So her approach to go out and seek those kids or us in the school was the single most thing that impacted me most in high school. Right.
Thanks, Depeche.
Yeah.
Rosaline, did you have anything to add?
Yes, I was thinking about, because when I was in high school, my physics teacher, she was very sweet. And then when I first registered to my school, my parents, we went to every teacher and we told her, this is Rosaline, she's from this place, she doesn't really speak very good English. So like if you can help her and be patient and kind of, hear her out whenever she has a question and be patient with her. That's just something that my parents did with me. And so whenever, like in physics, I really struggled with physics. So I would go to her and after class, and she was always willing to stay longer and explain things to me and go over things that we went over in class, even giving me notes. And I would take to my ESL teacher, and she would kind of explain in like easier English, I guess, what she's trying to say, and that helped a lot academic wise. And so I was doing better because I was willing to go after the teachers and tell them, okay, I didn't understand this, please explain again. And I guess teaching teachers or telling teachers to be a little more patient with youth that don't know how to speak English very well, and just being patient and be understanding of their situation. That helped me.
Thank you, Rosaline.
We're going to offer one final question from the Q&A, and for any of you who submitted questions that weren't answered on the phone, we'll be following up this webinar with a blog that will address some of those additional questions. And this question included will provide some additional resources from BRYCS to address it, but we wanted to also give Depeche or Rosaline an opportunity to respond. And the question is, what are some suggestions for working with schools and school districts that don't seem to have an agenda to be inclusive, or who perhaps are maybe more wary of immigrants and refugees, or don't have experience do you have thoughts about how to kind of initiate a conversation with a new school who may be resistant or unsure about working with refugee or immigrant youth?
Yes, one of the things that I would encourage schools to do is just understanding different cultures, because I know America is very ethnocentric and they think their culture is the best and things like that, but like getting into the principals here or the teachers here to really explain what it's like to be in a different culture and what it's like to learn about different things, not just as refugees, just in general. Like, think if you were to go to Europe and you don't know anything about Europe, you know, how would you like to be treated, for instance? And just getting to I guess having maybe like every once a month and getting to teach them about refugees or getting to teach them about different cultures and being acceptance of other cultures and thinking of ways that how would you like to be treated if you were to go to a different culture, and just, I guess, understanding or getting to teach them what it's like to be a stranger in a different countries. Maybe going it through that lens can help people put themselves in a refugee's youth's shoes and getting to learn, you know, and giving them classes and getting to learn what it's like to be somewhere else where you don't know anything. I think that would help.
Thank you, Rosaline. Those are some great points. Depeche, did you have anything that you wanted to add for that question?
We here in Pittsburgh region, I know about a couple of schools that don't have the same. They have the same issue here in Pittsburgh, but just noticing, or not noticing, but like telling them that there's a big population of refugee kids in school, and showing other schools as an example or advancement of students and giving them opportunities, educating teachers in general who are interested. Especially ESL teachers, they should have an interest in helping the kids, I guess, overall. So having them, pulling them out or going up and approaching them and showing them the approaches to better the students and better the inclusive, like refugee kids in general, would be the best approach. I think approaching ESL kids or gets a coordinator or someone who's coordinating events in the school would be the best approach, I would say.
Thank you, Depeche.
Yeah.
I also wanted to highlight for everyone that on the BRYCS website under Promising Practices, you can search for resources by topic, and education is one of the topics, and so you'll find some good resources that way. We've also just posted to the chat box a link specifically to a toolkit for refugee children in U.S. schools. And so that might be a resource that you could offer to schools who are interested in learning more about working with this population or refugee issues for refugee youth in the school system. I think that will conclude the questions that we'll take by phone today, so I'll hand it back over to Jackie.
Again, this webinar has been recorded, and we will send around the recording along with the PowerPoint slides and a short evaluation. And then I'll just direct you again to the BRYCS website. You can email us additional questions at any time at info@brycs.org or call our 1-800 or our toll-free line. And then please also, if you have Facebook or Twitter, find us online and also follow our blog. Thank you, Depeche and Rosaline, so much for helping us out today, for your wonderful insight, and thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.